The League of Women Voters of Cape Ann is pleased to bring to you 20-minute interviews with the candidates for Ward Councillor in Gloucester. Studio 1623 is hosting us, and with me is Ethan Foreman, who is a reporter for the Gloucester Daily Times. The League is a nonpartisan organization which encourages the active participation of citizens in government. We do not endorse any individual candidate for office. The election is Tuesday, November 4th. I'm June Michaels, a Rockport resident. The candidate with me is Tgettis, running to represent Ward 2. So let's start with your telling me a little about yourself and why you decided to run.
Okay, I discovered Gloucester in the 1970s and decided to move here, and I've worked here and moved and lived here since. I decided to run because I see an opportunity to help the community that's helped me so much, and also I believe in the two-party system that I believe right now I can contribute to.
The City Hall building is out of date in many ways. What do you envision as the future of both the building and the area?
As long as it's functional and it serves the intended purpose, then it's fine. But if that should be threatened or changed, maybe it's time to upgrade or use City Hall for something else that's more beneficial to the community.
Is there some crowding or other need that needs to be addressed for the building?
Well, it was built in the 1800s, and of course things have changed since then. So it may get to the point where it's just advantageous to reconsider the whole structure and build somewhere else or use it for another purpose.
Local industry provides local jobs and tax money. There's a strong call for more industrial bays in Gloucester, but our four industrial parks, Blackburn, Kettle Cove, Condolin Road, and Pond Road, are full. What do you see as Gloucester's best way to expand local industry?
I'd like to see the downtown area develop more to its potential. It's already zoned, and it might be underutilized. Some of the zoning may be outdated. The waterfront of the downtown area, Rogers Street, Main Street, may be an opportunity to develop those areas with an earnest effort to improve the community.
Upper Banjo Pond and Fernwood Lake in West Gloucester is a watershed area and backup reservoir with a dam that is in poor repair. There is a development proposed which would include 26 single-family homes on that land. What would you like to see happen to that property?
Personally, I'd like to see it preserved. I think it's already serving a purpose. Just because an area appears to be vacant doesn't mean it's not serving a purpose. It certainly is serving a purpose. All these communities that border the ocean are serving a vital purpose concerning the ecology. It's an aquifer for the land and also for the ocean to intersect. And also you have above it, you have the reservoir that's always trying to find its way to the inner harbor through these other water sources. So I think that preserving some of these things may be wise because they are already serving a purpose.
Has it been used recently during droughts for additional water supply?
I believe it has been, and every once in a while we are on a water ban, so we may already be at or beyond capacity. That needs to be clarified before we develop any more demands on the system that may already be stressed.
Gloucester is under a mandate to update the wastewater treatment plant, a project estimated to cost $206 million. When will the construction on the project be finished?
Well, I really don't have the details on that project, but
it has been voted, and $206 million is the figure in the design. So, how is the city planning to pay for it, and what would be the impact on the tax rate once the once we start paying it back.
There's no doubt that the economy in Gloucester should be a year-round economy. It shouldn't be a seasonal economy. It shouldn't be dependent on tourism, which is too fickle. You have to deal with weather patterns and other factors. It's just not dependable, and it's not stable. So I would like to see incentives to bring businesses to this location and make Gloucester a destination for businesses to want to come here. And I believe that can be done if we start with an audit and find out exactly where we stand and what we have, and work off of that.
Does the city have reserves set aside for paying for the wastewater treatment plant?
I honestly don't know the answer to that question. I sure hope they do.
Dogtown Common was donated in 1930 to the city of Gloucester by the Benson family to be kept as a watershed and public park. There's ongoing discussion about transferring Dogtown's conservation restriction to the Greenbelt Association with the loss of local control. What do you think would be best for the future of Dogtown?
I personally like the idea of maintaining local control over all these issues. Once this is gone, it's gone forever. You can never retrieve it. I think it's too valuable and historic to let any other entity run it.
Thank you. How would you go about planning to protect Gloucester's coastal resources and other infrastructure to mitigate climate change?
Well, I think that can be addressed by protecting, again, the open lands that we have. They do serve a purpose. They're acting as sponges or interfacing with the ocean, and I think that's vital to preserve. And also might want to look at the conditions of the different wharfs and the piers, and make sure they're in serviceable condition so that they can be utilized correctly. And also we want to maintain the different things, the breakwaters and the rocks and things that act as barriers.
The federal government is cutting grants for climate change mitigation, and so what could the city do over the next 5 years, say, that would not cost a great deal of money but would move the projects along?
Well, we can make sure we're not adding any more stresses to the system in the form of pollutants or overdevelopment. And I think that's important to be sensitive to the environment. The environment has a capacity. Everything has a capacity. You can't exceed it without creating problems. So we don't want to do that.
Well, it's now time for you to give a closing statement.
I'd like to be the Ward 2 representative city councilor in Gloucester, and I believe I can do a good job of doing that. I'm a full-time resident, a full-time worker in the Ward 2 district, and I feel like I have an understanding and a sensitivity to the ward and to the people who call Ward 2 home. I have an appreciation for the history, and I believe that Ward 2 is the historic center and also the heart and soul of the city.
Thank you very much. On behalf of the League of Women Voters of Cape Ann, I want to thank Don Tgettis, candidate for Ward 2 Councillor, for agreeing to be interviewed, and thank Studio 1623 and the Gloucester Daily Times for making it accessible to the public. Please remember to vote in the Gloucester municipal election on Tuesday, November 4th. The League of Women Voters of Cape Ann is pleased to bring you 15 to 20-minute interviews with the candidates for Gloucester's ward councillors. 1623 Studios is hosting us, and with us also is Ethan Foreman, who's a reporter with the Gloucester Daily Times. The League is a nonpartisan organization which encourages the participation of citizens in government. We do not endorse any individual candidates for public office. The election is Tuesday, November 4th. I'm June Michaels, a Rockport resident. The candidate with me is Dylan Benson, running for a second term as Ward 2 councillor. So I'm going to start by just asking you to tell me a little about yourself and why you're running.
Thank you, June. And funny enough, my mom's family is from Rockport. Well, not originally, but they lived in Rockport. My mom went to Rockport High School, and my grandmother lived in Rockport. So some of my childhood was spent in Rockport Beach's Front Beach. But anyway, my name is Dylan Benson. I'm running for a second term for Ward 2 City Councilor. I grew up in Ward 2. I've lived here all my life. I decided to run last election to serve the people who have given so much to me, people that I grew up with, and serving them every day and delivering. Some of the things that we have been able to deliver in this last election is we have seen many roads and sidewalks paved, repaired. We have seen the Green Street Park. We have also seen the Fort Playground be repaired and totally replaced after a constituent called me and also posted it on social media that their child was scabbed. We reached out to DPW, and that playground was repaired due in no part to a grant. Other things that we have done, and I'm very proud of, is that we have gotten the senior tax work-off and veterans tax work-off program adopted through the City Council that is via a local option. Another thing that we have done is we have been able to put forward the HEROES Act, a portion of the HEROES Act which allows veterans with disabilities to have a reduction off of their domiciles, 100% reduction off of their domiciles. We got that done with the work of the administration, and many veterans will benefit from that in this coming fiscal year. Other things that we have done is we've continued to deliver for residents, being available for constituents. I believe that this is public service, self-service. This isn't about me. This is about Ward 2 and for the city as a whole. And I can hope that you will vote for me in this upcoming election on November 4th, and we can continue to move forward together for Ward 2 and continue to see change, leadership, and progress. And as someone who brings municipal experience, working for a municipality for over 6 years for the city of Beverly, I bring that experience, understanding the role of what a city councilor is, what a city councilor isn't. And I will continue to bring that experience to the head and try to make positive change for our ward and for our city. Thank you.
City Hall is a building that's rather out of date in many ways. What do you envision as the future of the building and the area?
Well, thank you, and I know I will just say there is no Gloucester without City Hall. You think of the city of Paris, or you think of Big Ben in London, obviously much larger cities, but Big Ben is there's no London without Big Ben, and there's no Gloucester without City Hall. From my understanding, the restoration will cost anywhere between a ballpark of $25 million to possibly even greater, and due to the cost of materials, it could be significantly higher. There's needs, I understand there's needs for fire suppression, fire alarms, update of wiring. I would support any grants that would come forward that would support the needs of this restoration, and the cost. Also, the cost, though, with beyond the $25 million, will be cost of relocating City Hall for rent. And there are other needs in our city as well, and I think that we need to consider that. And when we're looking at grants coming for restoration and rehab, we do need a new fire station. So when we look at these grants, we need to consider what is the need, and that is something that I'm looking at very closely. But I do believe that we need to invest in City Hall and make sure City Hall is preserved for generations to come.
Local industry provides local jobs and tax money. There's a strong call for more industrial bays in Gloucester, but the 4 industrial parks, Blackburn, Kettle Cove, Condolin Road, and Pond Road, are full. What do you see as the best way Gloucester can expand local industry?
Well, I think definitely one thing that we should be looking at is evaluating how we can bring more businesses into the community, specifically medium and large businesses, and try to see what can come in. I think something that our city is we're on the waterfront, so how do we tap into our blue economy, specifically around like marine industrial businesses, also biotech businesses that we see. We have some in Boston, we have some here across the eastern part of our state. What do we do to attract those businesses? And hopefully in that sense, we can shift the burden from our homeowners because we have more businesses in the community. And I think we're looking at the solutions here, and I know there's been discussion for industrial parks of some sort of mixed use. And I think that could be a solution, but we have to be looking at it very carefully. But again, could it help people like myself who have lived here, has family that's lived here for 400 years, to be able to stay here, to be able to thrive here? But as I understand it, there's nothing that has come forward, and no one in the industrial parks has asked us specifically to change the zoning. But we'd have to look at that, and would that be a solution for the affordability crisis? But going back to that question, is we do need to be looking at bringing more businesses in, diversifying our economy, so we can support, again, we can have more industry paying into the tax base and really lessen the burden for our homeowners that pay an exuberant cost, that we need to be finding solutions for that.
Upper Banjo Pond and Fernwood Lake in West Gloucester is a watershed and backup reservoir with a dam that is in poor repair. There is a development proposed for about 26 single-family homes on that land. What would you like to see happen to this property?
Well, I think that there's questions of, will something come before the city council? So I don't want to speak on any proposal that could be going before the council. I know there's discussions with the planning board, but I do think there are questions about the proximity of this development to Fernwood Lake and the watershed, and that is something we need to be looking at very carefully. And we need to be we need to take every step to protect our watershed and our open space. And again, with this project, I support a transparent review process that reflects the intent of both the watershed protection overlay district and the cluster development zoning.
Gloucester is under a mandate to update the wastewater treatment plant, a project estimated to cost $206 million. Where will that money come from, and what will be the impact on the tax rate?
That is a very important question, and it truly is, I think, one of the most pressing issues facing this community in the coming years ahead. For example, what you just spoke to is we, in the last couple of years, I think if it was last year, if I remember correctly, it was the largest loan order that the city council took for $206 million. In my view, it was one of the most consequential votes I took, and will be probably going into the future. I would like to see us work with the rest of the city council and the administration, and I would be doing that to make sure that we are most financially prepared for the cost, expending every resource possible for this to reduce, at our disposal, to reduce that, the burden on the ratepayer, because this will be a cost to our ratepayer. And in turn, the cost would go to business owners, and then those business owners would then have to pay, and then in turn it could go on the customer. We would also be looking at landlords. The cost would trickle down to their tenants, so it would be a snowball effect. We need to do everything in our power to get more grants, earmarks, and the alike to pay down this project, to reduce the cost to our ratepayer, to our taxpayer. And this has been kicked down the can for many, many years, probably as long as I've been alive. But with that being said, this has been taken seriously in the last few years, and this is a court order by the federal government. We have to do this, but we need to be doing it in a way that really prevents a huge impact on our businesses, a huge impact on our homeowners and the ratepayer. And obviously this would have a trickle-down effect again to our renters and to our businesses and to the customers that go into those restaurants and businesses alike.
So you anticipate paying for it through the sewer rates, or both the sewer and the tax rate?
It would really be an administration decision, and then we would come and approve that. My hope is that this would be paid down as much as possible from state and federal grant money. And I do think that the federal government has asked us to do this, So it should really be the federal government that is paying the blunt of this, in my view. That's just, it may not be a popular viewpoint, but that is my opinion. But again, I do see this as one of the most pressing issues facing our community, and we do need to do everything in the toolbox to prevent this really going on to the ratepayer. And I know the administration and others, and including our state delegation, understand the gravity of this.
Dogtown Common was donated in 1930 to the city of Gloucester by the Benson family to be kept as watershed and park. There's ongoing discussion about transferring Dogtown Common conservation restriction to Essex County Greenbelt with some loss of local control. What do you think would be best for the future of Dogtown?
Well, to answer the first part of that, I do think that it would be better. Right now, what I'm seeing is local control, but again, I think that will have to be discussed, and I look forward to that discussion. But growing up in Gloucester, born and bred, 33 years, I remember walking in Dogtown as a kid and then as an adult and seeing the historic part of Dogtown, the historic indigenous history, the history of colonial America. And it really has quite a historic part of our community. And I hope we can all agree on the need to preserve our open space and our historic parts of our city. And with that being said, I also am looking at other parts of our city, and I will say the Emerald Forest, for example, I know that is not city owned, but it must be protected. And I support and commend the neighborhood and others who have been at the forefront of protecting that for years, and we must protect that. And going back to Dogtown, we must and will continue to preserve Dogtown for generations to come. And that's kind of how I'm seeing it.
The federal government is also not enthusiastic about dealing with climate change and funding the mitigation to preserve the coastal resources and infrastructure. What do you think is the best way forward? Can you think of any project, for example, that we can do without federal backing?
Sure, and I think that we can look at like the state government and what they're doing on climate change, and if there's grants or other programs that we can tap into to support that. But again, I think Gloucester is one of the communities in the state that is affected by climate change, specifically rising sea levels. We see the reality of climate change during nor'easters, with rising waters flooding our streets, causing significant damage. Many businesses in my ward, I've spoken to them, and they are concerned about this. They're concerned about flood insurance, cost of repairs every time we see a coastal storm. And with that being what you just said, is cities and towns, small and large, are responsible for about 70% of global greenhouse gas emissions in the world. So that's all cities and towns, small and large. Gloucester should be at the forefront of solving the climate crisis, and we've seen action in the past. We've seen action around the hiring of a sustainability coordinator, the community electricity aggregation. That's been in place since 2018. I've met many in my ward that have benefited from the program, saving money on their electric bills, and every penny counts during this affordability crisis that we've seen now in the last 4 years, and we know utility bills keep going up, 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 and up. We look at also municipal buildings. We've seen those be electrified. We see our soiler-free library that has just opened up. That's net zero. The building will be using zero fossil fuels. They're using rainwater for their irrigation system, installing an 8,000-gallon catchment tank. These are examples of ways that the city has confronted the climate crisis and mitigate that crisis that we're seeing. To answer that point of what we can do going into the next few years, I do think that we can use those examples as springboards for future climate resiliency. We must also look at how we prepare our neighborhoods, specifically our neighborhoods on the water, as we're seeing rising sea levels, and this is going to be a problem that's going to be years in the making. And I really think there is no magic bullet to this issue. And we will be facing this issues for multiple generations, long after I'm the Ward 2 City Councilor. And I do think if we can look at other things around as we rehab buildings, putting solar panels on buildings, if it works, it has to, again, work for that building. I also think if we should be harnessing our tides as well. These are things that we could be looking at, but I do think with limited action happening elsewhere, we as a city should be doing more, and we should also look at collaborating with Rockport, with Essex, with Manchester by the Sea, and we see other examples of how Beverly has done that with Salem. We don't have to reinvent the wheel here, folks. We can definitely look at other communities and what they've done so we can, again, mitigate our greenhouse emissions and help us prepare for resiliency. And specifically going back, I will say we have to prepare our neighborhoods that are right on the water. What can they do to be ready for rising sea levels that will probably happen long after 100 years from now, but they're happening more and more, and we see those storms happening one or two. Those 100-year storms are now happening every winter or every fall. So I think we do need to be prepared for all contingencies.
Thank you. Well, it's now time for the candidate to make a final 1-minute statement.
Thank you very much, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for this opportunity, and for Ethan for coming from the Gloucester Daily Times. And the importance of local papers is now more than ever. I believe that I have delivered for Ward 2, and I believe that there is so much more work to do. And this isn't about the partisan politics. This is about delivering for our ward, delivering for our people that have given so much to me. I want to continue to give to you. And I believe that we can look at more ways to help our seniors and our veterans reduce their property tax and reduce their cost, and also helping our homeowners reduce property taxes. Other things that we can look at is continuing to activate our open spaces through Burnham's Field and Green Street Park as well. And also we see at the Fort, we continue to help address safety issues with speeding. And we've reduced speeding across the board on many of our main streets in Ward 2. And that is something we need to continue to look at. And I want to hear from you in these next 4 weeks. What are your concerns? What are your needs? What are your wants? Because this is about you. This isn't about me or anyone else running. This is about about our ward and our city and our future. And we can work together for the betterment of our community and for the betterment of our ward specifically. And I hope you can vote for me on November 4th, and we can continue to move our ward and city forward together. Thank you.
On behalf of the League of Women Voters of Cape Ann, I want to thank Dylan Benson, Ward 2 Councillor, for agreeing to be interviewed, and thank 1623 Studios and the Gloucester Daily Times for bringing the interviews to the public. Please remember to vote on Tuesday, November 4th.